The wealthy man was busy having a thrill with his secretary, completely unaware that a killer already had him in his sights. But the hitman couldn't resist turning his head to look at the beautiful woman, and that one glance sent his heart rate shooting up to 101. He played a piece of music through his earpiece to calm himself down. When his pulse finally dropped to 60, he pulled the trigger, only to realize the bullet had hit the secretary instead. He reloaded, ready to fire again, but security rushed in and yanked the curtain shut. Losing the perfect shot, he had no choice but to break down the rifle and prepare to escape. He picked up the shell casing from the ground, stuffed all the gear back into his bag, took off his jacket, and put on a helmet to hide his face. After making sure no one was watching, he hopped on a nearby bike and sped away. He tossed the silencer into a sewer, stayed on back roads to avoid running into the police, and when he passed a garbage truck, he threw all his equipment inside. Then he ditched the bike, switched to walking, crossed a footbridge, and dropped his helmet into the river. After walking for half an hour, he found a remote motel, stripped off his clothes, washed himself thoroughly, and even shaved. Once he finished, he changed into a new outfit and sprayed a heavy amount of cologne to wipe out any lingering scent. Before entering the airport, he pulled out his last backup gun, wiped off the fingerprints, and dumped it into a trash bin. But at security, he saw a police dog staring straight at him. Even though he wasn't carrying anything suspicious anymore, he decided not to take that risk. He immediately abandoned the flight, walked into the restroom, and scrubbed himself all over again, even cleaning the sink he had touched. This wasn't hygiene. This was the discipline of a top assassin. Michael bought another flight, but just as he was about to board, his boss called. Michael knew that for a hitman, failure didn't only bring revenge from the target. Sometimes it brought a hit from the employer, so he didn't dare slip. He hung up, yanked out the SIM card, crushed the phone under his foot, and tossed the pieces away so he couldn't be tracked. On the plane, he stayed alert, scanning everything around him. Soon, he noticed a man in sunglasses watching him a little too closely. So, the moment he landed, Michael used another fake identity to book a connecting flight. But somehow that same sunglasses guy booked a transfer too, and they even ended up in the same waiting area. A loud alarm went off in Michael's mind. This man was probably following him. He changed his ticket again and checked into an airport hotel. He ordered himself a big steak, but not because he was hungry. He used the glass to jam the door handle, placed the metal tray cover underneath to create a simple alarm system, and kept the dinner knife at his side. Then he spent the whole night on the couch. Luckily, nothing happened. The next morning, Michael looked around carefully and made sure the sunglasses man had vanished before continuing his journey. Soon, he reached his destination. His Jeep was parked near the airport, and after an entire day of circling and diverting, he finally drove into the remote villa he used as a hideout. But the moment he reached the door, he noticed two large footprints on the ground and several cigarette butts nearby. Someone had been waiting for him. His heart tightened. His wife was home alone. He grabbed his gun from the car and rushed toward the house. He found the same footprints in the yard. Panic hit him hard. He ran inside and checked every room, but his wife wasn't there. Then he dashed into the bedroom, saw the place torn apart, and noticed blood on the wall. He called her phone immediately and learned she had been badly injured and taken to the hospital. Seeing her covered in wounds on the hospital bed tore him apart. His wife's brother told him it was a man and a woman who attacked her. They broke in and demanded to know where Michael was. Even after being beaten unconscious, she refused to say a word. Then the attackers left in a green taxi with a light on top. Hearing this, Michael immediately transferred her to a private hospital, and she soon woke up. Seeing she was hurt because of him, Michael made up his mind to avenge her. After settling her in, he returned home, dug up the weapons he had buried in the yard, changed into a tourist disguise, and went out to search for that green taxi. But he didn't attack right away. He simply noted which company the cab belonged to. Late that night, he approached the taxi company, pretending to inquire about business, tricked the guard into opening the gate, and pointed a gun at him as soon as the door unlocked. Michael pulled up the company's digital records and quickly found the taxi that had passed by his house 2 days ago. Using the plate number, he located the driver, a young man named Leo. Michael messed up the office, threw some cash on the floor, and staged the scene to look like a break-in robbery. The next morning, Michael waited outside the company. When Leo drove out in the green taxi, Michael got in pretending to be a passenger. They had barely gone a few blocks before Leo saw the gun behind him and panicked, thinking he was being robbed. He handed over his wallet immediately. Michael asked if he remembered a trip 3 days ago to a private house in the woods. Leo recalled a man and a woman arriving from the airport, hiring him to take them to a remote villa. He told Michael everything he knew, begging to be spared. But Michael had no intention of letting someone who talked this easily stay alive. Before leaving, he took Leo's radio and wallet and staged the scene as a robbery murder. Michael still didn't know who those two attackers were, but his boss definitely did, because only the boss knew his home address. So he flew to New Orleans, where he kept a storage warehouse filled with weapons, fake IDs, and replica license plates. Everything was fake, except the guns. Then he disguised himself as a cleaning worker and waited outside the apartment building for a chance to slip in. Soon, a delivery guy arrived, and Michael followed him by rolling a trash bin along. When they reached the target floor, Michael silently counted how long the office door stayed open. 7 seconds. Then it locked automatically. As the delivery guy walked out, Michael pretended to drink from the water tap. Right before the door closed, he stopped it with his foot. By the time the secretary noticed, he was already right in front of her. Michael took her phone and her computer. Under the threat of a top-tier assassin, the secretary had no choice but to lead him straight into her boss Hodges' office. Hodges was shocked to see Michael suddenly show up, but he still kept a calm face. Michael grabbed some zip ties and ordered the secretary to tie Hodges to his chair. Then he locked her inside the bathroom. Michael asked who hired the killers to hurt his wife, but Hodges followed the rules of the business and said he would never reveal anything inside this office. Michael said nothing. He fired 3 steel nails straight into Hodges' chest and warned him that if he couldn't pull them out within 6 minutes, he would suffocate and die. Hodges still refused to betray his client, but after only 3 minutes, he collapsed on the floor in agony. Michael quickly spread newspapers on the ground so the blood wouldn't stain the carpet. Then he dragged in the trash bin, stuffed Hodges' body inside, and cleaned up the scene. When he opened the bathroom door, the secretary was already shaking on the floor, begging for mercy. She didn't expect to live. She only hoped Michael would make it look like an accident so her kids could collect a large insurance payout. Michael didn't answer. He quietly removed her restraints, then wheeled out the bin with the body inside. The secretary followed him into the elevator. With her help, Michael quickly found the contract that ordered his death. On the back were 2 phone numbers belonging to the killers who came for him. Following the trail, he not only found their home addresses, but also uncovered the information about the employer behind them. The moment the secretary looked away, Michael snapped her neck. It would look like she slipped and fell to her death, just the ending she asked for. After that, he handled Hodges' body. He brought it back to the warehouse, dismembered it with tools, dissolved what he could, then drove to the docks and threw the remaining pieces into the sea. He cleaned the car inside and out, removed the fake license plates, and returned the vehicle to its original parking spot. After that, he used a brand new fake identity to rent a new car and set out for revenge. Michael's first target was the male hitman, Owen. Before every job, he preferred to scout ahead. He noticed Owen kept a vicious pit bull at home, so Michael went to the supermarket and bought good cuts of beef, a whole box of sleeping pills, and a bottle of strong liquor. But before he even reached the house, the pit bull charged at him like a wild beast. Michael tossed the beef mixed with sleeping pills, and the dog soon grew drowsy and wandered back inside. Still, Michael didn't rush. He waited outside to make sure the dog was fully asleep before sneaking in. The moment he stepped inside, a 300-pound giant lunged at him. Michael was caught off guard and took several brutal hits. Owen's body was built like a trained fighter. Michael would lose if he tried to go head-to-head, so he created noise to distract Owen, slipped back into the previous room, and found the gun hidden under the bed. When Owen stumbled toward him, Michael fired without hesitation and killed him, but the gunshot woke the pit bull. Hearing it charging toward him, Michael ran as fast as he could and slammed the metal gate shut just in time. Then he lit the bottle of liquor he brought and hurled it inside, burning the place to destroy evidence. Michael immediately rushed to New York. He had to take out the next target before news of Owen's death spread. Using another fake identity, he rented a car and began scouting again. From day to night, he finally spotted the female assassin. Michael tailed her and, at a red light, pulled up beside her, ready to shoot. But police sirens blared in the distance, forcing him to abort. Later, he watched her enter a fancy restaurant. That was his chance. He followed her inside. The moment she saw Michael, she knew she wouldn't live through today. She asked him to let her finish one last meal. She downed a full glass of alcohol and said she was only doing her job. They had no personal feud. In fact, when Owen attacked Michael's wife, she even tried to talk him out of it. But no matter what she said, Michael didn't react. After dinner, the two walked along a small riverside path. When she missed a step and fell down the stairs, she looked back at Michael, hoping for help. Michael ended it with a single shot. With both killers gone, Michael's final target was the man who placed the order, Claiborne. He rushed to Chicago and found Claiborne's residence. But Claiborne was wealthy and influential, living in a high-security luxury apartment and always protected by bodyguards. Killing him wouldn't be easy, but Michael had a plan. One day, he slipped into the garage before the gate closed behind the driver. He tried entering the building from the garage, but the inner door was locked tight. Without a residence access card, it was impossible, so he quickly recorded the lock's model with his phone and ordered a magnetic car duplicator online. The next day, when the device arrived, he tailed Claiborne to a gym. As he passed a janitor, he casually tugged the man's keys, but got caught on the janitor's clothing. Michael said his jacket was new, pretended to laugh it off, and successfully stole the keys. In the locker room, he used the stolen keys to open Claiborne's locker, grabbed his access card, and made a duplicate. That night, Michael slipped back into the garage, used the copied card to unlock the door, and quietly made his way into Claiborne's apartment. Soon, he stood right in his home. Claiborne thought Michael was a robber and panicked, saying he had no cash at home, but could get someone to bring some immediately. Michael said nothing. He simply pulled out the assassination contract. Claiborne froze. He finally understood. Michael was the killer he had hired. Claiborne explained that after hearing Michael failed the job, he didn't plan to go after him. It was Hodges who contacted him and offered to clean up the mess for $150,000, promising that Claiborne's name would stay out of it. As for everything that happened afterward, Claiborne claimed he knew nothing. Michael could tell he wasn't lying. That's when he realized this whole situation was a setup. Hodges didn't refuse to reveal the employer to protect Claiborne. He refused because he himself was the one trying to kill Michael. If he said the wrong name, he would die even faster. Once Michael understood the truth, he didn't kill Claiborne. He knew Claiborne would never be stupid enough to cross a man who could walk into his home undetected after everything he had been through. Michael finally saw the fate of a hitman, kill or be killed, and the roles could flip at any moment. So he chose to leave the business for good. He only wanted a quiet life with his wife, but years of killing had left him with deep scars. Even when he sat with sunglasses on, pretending to rest, his eyes never fully closed. How long could a piece like this really last?